The laughter around the table felt like knives. It was my birthday dinner, but no one cared about me, only their jokes. My brother Mark grinned and said, "Grace thinks her little candle shop is a real company now." My mother laughed so hard her pearls shook. Dad waved his hand. "Honey, be proud she's creative. At least she's not asking us for rent yet." Even Ryan, my fiancé, smiled behind his wine glass. I showed them my phone screen, trembling. "I made $300 this week. I think it's growing." Mark snorted. $300? That's pocket change. I spend more on gas. The table roared again. I felt heat behind my eyes. When I stood to clear the dishes, I heard Mom whisper, "She'll get over this phase soon." In the hallway, I froze. Ryan's voice came from the kitchen, low, secret. "Don't worry," he told my sister Lily. "She's harmless. Let her play businesswoman." Lily giggled. "Maybe when she fails, you'll finally leave her." The plate slipped from my hands and shattered. Everyone turned. I forced a smile and said, "Sorry, slippery hands." Inside, I broke. That night, I couldn't sleep. Their laughter replayed in my head, mixed with Ryan's whisper. Around midnight, I checked his phone while he showered. Messages from Lily flashed on the screen. Heart emojis, secret plans. I felt sick. I stepped outside onto the porch, cold air biting my skin. When Ryan came out later, towel around his neck, I handed him his ring. I said, "It's over." He blinked. "Grace, don't be dramatic." "Don't worry," I said, voice shaking. "You can keep Lily company now." His face drained of color. I closed the door on him before he could speak. The next morning, I packed boxes of candles, molds, and wax and drove to a tiny apartment downtown. The rent was ugly, but the silence was mine. I opened my laptop and created a website, Grace Glow Candles. My dream had survived their laughter. At midnight, I lit one candle, lavender and vanilla, and whispered, "This is the start." Then an email pinged. My first order, one candle. It felt like the world had handed me a spark. By weekend, I had sold 5 candles. Not much, but each sale felt like proof I mattered. I filmed a small video showing how I poured wax and talked about healing after heartbreak. Only 10 people watched. Still, I smiled. Then Mark posted a TikTok. He held one of my candles and joked, "Support local delusions." The clip got 100,000 views overnight. Comments flooded in, calling me desperate, dumb, childish. My sales dropped to 0. I cried into my pillow until my phone buzzed again. A message under Mark's post read, "Your candles are pretty. Don't quit." From a stranger. Just one line. It pulled me out of bed. I wiped my eyes and thought, what if my candles had meaning? Instead of simple scents, each could stand for something. Hope, courage, healing. I stayed up designing new labels, soft colors, strong names. I changed my store's name to Lighthouse Co. because lighthouses never stop shining, even in storms. As I uploaded the new photos, another order appeared, then another. Maybe people wanted light, not luxury. I poured wax until my wrists ached. Orders climbed from 10 to 100. I couldn't believe it. I filmed a video explaining the meaning behind each candle. This one is called Courage, because sometimes you have to light your own path. The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. A famous mental health influencer had shared my video, saying, "This girl's message hit me hard." I screamed into my blanket. Within hours, my store sold out. Mom called that night. "We saw your little video. Cute idea." "Thanks," I said, keeping my voice calm. Still, Dad added, "You might want to find real work before you get behind on bills." I smiled to myself. I'll manage. After the call, I opened my favorite paper, looking at my tiny kitchen packed with shipping boxes and wax. It was chaos, but it was mine. At 2 a.m., while sealing the last box, I whispered, "You laughed at me once, you won't laugh next time." Then a new email popped up from a huge retail chain. They wanted a meeting. My hands trembled. The office building towered above me. Inside, 2 men in suits smiled too much. "Your product has potential," one said. "We'd like to buy your brand, $50,000. $50,000 felt huge. Still, something inside me whispered no. "If I sell, I lose everything I built," I said.
The man leaned back. Think carefully. Candle trends die fast. I stood. Maybe, but light never does. Outside, my knees shook. Had I just thrown away my only chance? That night, I told the story on video. How big companies tried to own my dream. I said no, because I'd rather grow slow than sell my soul. The clip went viral. People called me brave. Sales doubled again. Then my brother texted, "Guess we were wrong about your hobby." I stared at the message, half smiling. Maybe he meant it, maybe not. Either way, I kept pouring candles. I didn't know yet that the next blow would come from home again. A week later, I got a call from Mom. "We saw you on the news," she said, her tone sharp. "All that talk about refusing big money makes you look ungrateful." Dad added, "You should have taken the deal. Candle fads fade fast." I bit my tongue. "Thanks for the advice," I said. After I hung up, I opened my email. Hundreds of orders waiting. I smiled through tears. My dream was alive. Then a message from an unknown account appeared. "You don't know me, but your candles helped me through depression. Thank you." I cried for real then, because that was the reason I started this. Later that night, I scrolled through social media and froze. Mark's girlfriend, Olivia, had launched a new business. Same candle designs, same words, same logo. Her post read, "Inspired by family." My blood boiled. Mom commented under it, "So proud of you, sweetheart." They had sided with her. Again. My phone buzzed. A lawyer message saying, "You need trademark protection? I can help you, no charge." I whispered, "Maybe it's time they learned who I've become." The lawyer, Miss Daniels, wore red glasses and spoke fast. "You have proof this design was yours first?" "Yes," I said, handing her screenshots, invoices, and my first videos. "Good. We'll send a cease and desist today." When Olivia got the notice, she posted another video calling me a jealous failure. The comments turned ugly again. Mark texted, "You're ruining our family over candles." I replied, "You ruined it when you stole my work." Miss Daniels smiled. "They can shout all they want. You have rights now." A week later, I got an email. Trademark approved. For the first time in my life, I owned something that couldn't be taken. That night, I went live online. I talked about standing up for yourself even when it's family. Thousands watched. People sent messages saying they were proud. The next morning, my sales hit record highs. My light was spreading, and my family couldn't dim it anymore. But they weren't done trying. Business boomed faster than I could handle. I hired 2 part-timers and turned my apartment into a mini factory. Boxes filled every corner. Then came the email that changed everything. "Forbes 30 Under 30 wants to feature you." I read it 3 times before believing. I told no one, especially not my family. But a week later, my phone buzzed again. Dad left a message. "Grace, your mother's health isn't good. We need help with medical bills." I froze. I hadn't spoken to them in months. I sent money quietly, through Miss Daniels, no message attached. Days later, Mom posted online, "So grateful our daughter Lily helped us during hard times." My throat burned. Even when I helped, they gave the credit to her. I didn't reply. That night, I walked along the river near my studio, breathing cold air. You don't need their thanks, I told myself. But it still hurt. Then a new call came, from a global distributor, wanting to stock my candles. Lighthouse Co. was about to go worldwide. The warehouse smelled of wax and dreams. I stood among shelves lined with boxes labeled healing, strength, peace. As workers packed orders, I felt something new. Power. That same day, my father called again. "Grace, your mother's doing better. We'd like you to visit." His voice was softer than I remembered. Against my better judgment, I went. Their house looked smaller now. The garden, once perfect, was overgrown. Mom hugged me awkwardly. She said, "You've changed." I replied, "Maybe I finally grew up." Then I saw Ryan, my ex, coming down the stairs. He smiled. "Didn't expect to see you." On Mom's hand, I noticed a ring. Lily's engagement ring. They were engaged. Lily came out smirking. At least I married someone who knows business. I didn't answer. I simply looked her in the eye and said, "You married my leftovers." The room went silent. I turned and left. On the way home, my phone rang. Ms. Daniel said, "Grace, your brand is now valued at $50 million. I pulled over and cried. When the magazine cover came out, Grace Owens, The Light Behind Lighthouse Co., I stared at it for hours. My smile looked different, stronger. The next morning, my family group chat lit up. After 2 years of silence, Mark messaged, "Congrats, sis. Any openings at your company?" Mom added, "We're all proud of you, sweetheart." I typed back, "Thank you." That was all. 2 weeks later, I got an invitation to dinner. "To celebrate your success," Mom said. Against my instincts, I went. They greeted me with hugs, laughter, and fake warmth. Mark bragged about his new business consulting firm. Lily flaunted her diamond ring. Then Dad cleared his throat. "We were thinking maybe you could invest in our furniture store, help the family rise together." I smiled, sipping my wine. "You once called my business a hobby. Why should I fund yours?" The silence stretched. Lily's smile faltered. I stood up. "I have another meeting to attend, with people who actually believed in me." Their faces froze as I walked out, heels clicking like victory drums.
A week after that dinner, I woke to chaos online. Lily had posted a long message. "Some people forget family when money blinds them." Photos of us as kids, captions about how I had changed. The comments turned nasty again, people calling me selfish. At first, I wanted to defend myself, but Ms. Daniel said, "Don't feed it. Truth always surfaces." 2 days later, an old video of my family mocking me went viral. Someone had clipped Mark's joke, "Support local delusions." The internet didn't laugh this time. They were furious at them. Messages poured in, "You owe her an apology." Mark deleted his accounts. Lily went silent. For once, the world was on my side. Still, I felt empty. That night, I stood by the window of my new studio, watching city lights flicker. I whispered, "I forgive you, but I'll never forget." Then my phone rang. An investor wanted to meet. He said, "Grace, your brand could be worth $100 million in 2 years." My heart pounded. I wasn't done climbing. Months passed in a blur of meetings and travel. I learned about marketing, packaging, and logistics. Every mistake became a lesson. When I looked in the mirror now, I saw focus, not fear. Then, one night, my father called. "We're losing the house," he said quietly. "The store failed. We have nowhere to go." I stayed silent. He continued, "We could work for you. Anything. We just need a chance." Old memories stabbed me, the laughter, the names they called me. "I'll think about it," I said, and hung up. Later, I scrolled through photos of my warehouse, my team smiling beside boxes labeled hope and strength. I had built all this from ashes. Maybe it was time for them to taste humility. 2 days later, Lily called, her voice breaking. She said, "Ryan left me. He took everything." I almost felt sorry for her, almost. When she asked, "Can I talk to you in person?" I said yes. Part of me wanted to see what sorry looked like on her face. Lily arrived at my office wearing sunglasses and shame. She looked around at the glass walls, the humming workspace, my logo shining behind the front desk. "She really did it," she said softly. I nodded. "What do you want, Lily?" She swallowed. "A job. Anything." I studied her face, the same sister who had laughed at me for years. "There's an opening in customer service," I said. Her eyes widened. "That's entry level." "So was I once." She hesitated, then nodded. "I'll take it." As she left, Ms. Daniels raised her eyebrow. "You sure?" "Yes," I said. "Let her see what real work feels like." A week later, Lily started. She wore designer shoes to the warehouse and complained about the smell of wax.
But I noticed small changes. Less makeup, quieter tone. Maybe she was learning. Maybe forgiveness could start as discipline. Still, deep down, I stayed on guard. The company grew faster than ever. Stores wanted shelves full of lighthouse candles. My team expanded to 50 employees. One afternoon, a camera crew arrived. "We're filming a documentary on women entrepreneurs," the producer said. I agreed, thinking it might inspire others. A month later, the trailer dropped online, scenes of me working, clips of my family mocking me years ago, then flashes of my success. The contrast hit people hard. The video hit 25 million views in a week. Suddenly, strangers called me a symbol of resilience. Lily watched from the sidelines. I caught her wiping tears one morning after a team meeting. "Are you okay?" I asked. She nodded. "You deserved all of this. I was awful." Her honesty surprised me. That night she sent a text, "Thank you for letting me learn instead of punishing me." I smiled. Maybe we were healing. Then Ms. Daniels called. "Grace, investors want to buy 40% of your company for $200 million. I nearly dropped my phone. The deal took weeks to finalize. Every paper I signed felt unreal. When it ended, Ms. Daniels smiled. "Grace, your valuation just hit $200 million. $200 million! I stared at the numbers, then burst out laughing and crying at once. That night, we celebrated with cake and music in the warehouse. My staff cheered. Lily stood in the back, clapping with watery eyes. When the crowd quieted, I said, "To everyone who believed in the light, even when it flickered, thank you." Later, alone in my office, I whispered to the universe, "They said I'd fail. I didn't just prove them wrong, I proved myself right." My phone buzzed, a message from Dad. "We'd love to visit and see what you've built." I took a deep breath. Maybe it was time for the final chapter between us. I texted back, "Come tomorrow." But I also sent a copy of their old letter, the one they mocked my dreams, to the printer on my desk. I was ready. The next morning, my family walked into my headquarters looking small against the tall glass walls. Mom's eyes darted everywhere. She said, "This place is beautiful." Mark shook my hand awkwardly. Lily stayed close to me, quieter than I ever seen her. We sat in the conference room, sunlight spilling across the long table. Dad cleared his throat. "Grace, we know we made mistakes. We didn't believe in you. We're sorry." For a second, I couldn't speak. I had imagined this moment for years, but it felt strange now, less sweet, more sad. I slid the printed letter across the table, the one filled with their old insults. Dad opened it, reading silently. His shoulders sunk. I kept this to remind myself why I worked so hard. Mom wiped her eyes. "You didn't deserve any of it." I nodded slowly. "No, I didn't." The room was heavy with silence. Finally, I said, "If you really want to make it right, help others who are starting small like I once did." They looked confused. "You'll see tomorrow," I said. They didn't know yet that forgiveness was coming, with conditions. The following week, I announced a new branch of my company, the Lighthouse Foundation. It would mentor young entrepreneurs who had no family support, just like me years ago. At the launch event, cameras flashed, and I stood on stage telling my story from the heart. I was laughed at, I said, but every word they used against me became my fuel. The crowd applauded. When it ended, I turned to my family. "If you really want to work with me," I said, "join this project, not as relatives, but as volunteers." Dad nodded. "We'll do it." Mark hesitated, but agreed. Lily squeezed my hand. The next morning, they showed up early, wearing Lighthouse Foundation shirts. Watching them unload supplies beside my staff felt unreal. Mom even smiled at the volunteers, saying, "My daughter built this from nothing." For the first time, I heard pride instead of pity. That night, Lily left a note on my desk. "Thank you for letting us earn your forgiveness." I kept it under my keyboard. Light was healing us all.
Weeks passed. My family worked quietly at the foundation. I watched them change bit by bit. Dad taught young people how to budget. Mom organized supply drives. Mark helped design new packaging. The public loved the story. The family who mocked her now helping others shine. Still, I kept a line between business and forgiveness. One afternoon, Lily came to my office. "You were right," she said. "I used to laugh because I was jealous. You never needed approval. I did." I looked at her for a moment. "We were both lost," I said. She smiled sadly. "Ryan called. He wants another chance." I laughed softly. "Tell him to buy a candle." She grinned for the first time in years. Later that night, I walked through the quiet warehouse, breathing in the warm scent of wax. Each candle glowed like a small heartbeat. $200 million wasn't the real reward. Peace was. A few months later, a TV network released a full documentary about my journey. It opened with clips of my family laughing at me, then cut to me standing in my headquarters, surrounded by hundreds of glowing candles. The response online was explosive. People cried, commented, shared. Within days, sales tripled again. My company became a global name, featured in stores from Paris to Tokyo. But what touched me most were the messages from strangers. "You made me believe I can start again." During one interview, a reporter asked, "Grace, what would you say to the people who doubted you?" I smiled at the camera. "Thank you. You taught me that light shines brightest in darkness." That line went viral. Later, Lily hugged me backstage. "You did it," she whispered. "No," I said. "We did it. Because I learned how to forgive." She nodded, tears in her eyes. The world saw success, but I knew the real story was about healing. On the first anniversary of the foundation, we hosted a gala. Hundreds of guests attended, including investors, students, and former critics. As I walked on stage, I spotted my parents in the front row, holding hands. I began, "A few years ago, I made candles alone in a tiny kitchen. Today, this light has reached millions. But this isn't just my victory. It's proof that belief can outlive doubt." The crowd stood, clapping. After the speech, Dad approached me. "You've changed the world, Grace," he said, voice trembling. I smiled. "No, Dad, I just changed how I saw myself." He nodded, eyes wet. "We're proud of you." Finally, the words I had waited my whole life to hear. When the event ended, I walked to my car under the bright city lights. My phone buzzed. Another email, a partnership offer from an international brand. I looked up at the night sky and whispered, "Thank you." Every star looked like a tiny candle, flickering with promise. Months later, I returned to the small town where everything began. The old market still stood, the place where people once laughed at my first candle stall. Now, it was nearly empty, quiet except for the hum of the lights. I set up a single table with a sign, "Free candles for dreamers." People stopped, recognizing me. "You're that woman from the video," a teenager said, eyes wide. I smiled. "I used to sell here for $5 a jar." She whispered, "My mom started her own shop after watching you." Tears stung my eyes. Then it was all worth it. Later, as I packed up, I saw the bakery owner who had once mocked me. He shuffled over. "I was wrong about you," he muttered. "You made us all look small." I handed him a candle. It's not about making anyone small. It's about lighting up what's dark. As I drove away, the town lights looked brighter somehow. The following winter, Lighthouse hit another milestone, our first international store in London. Walking through it felt surreal. Chandeliers, marble floors, and the same soft glow from my first candle. Reporters gathered outside. One asked, "Grace, what's next after 200 million?" I paused. "Impact," I said. "Money built this, but kindness will keep it alive." That night, I joined my family for dinner at my parents' modest new apartment. The atmosphere was warm this time, filled with laughter and real stories. Mom served homemade soup. "It's not fancy," she said, "but it's ours." I looked around the table. Lily, now managing the foundation's mentorship program, Mark designing packaging for small creators, Dad teaching budgeting to teens. For the first time, we were truly a team. I raised my glass to second chances and to never giving up. They clinked glasses, smiling. The bitterness had finally melted away. Even the air felt lighter. One morning, I received a handwritten letter. No email, no signature, just looping handwriting. I bought one of your first candles years ago. I was homeless then. The scent reminded me of hope. Now I own a small shop and sell your candles there. Thank you for reminding me that light always returns. I reread it several times. That letter became my reminder of why I started. That week, I announced a new program, the One Spark Project, giving free starter kits to struggling artists. When the first batch shipped, I personally wrote, "You don't need permission to shine." It went viral overnight. People posted their own stories using the hashtag #LighthouseJourney. I scrolled through the posts, tears falling freely. This was bigger than success. It was purpose. And deep down, I knew, if I could rise from ridicule, anyone could. Light had multiplied, and I was only its keeper. 3 years after hitting 200 million, I stood backstage at an entrepreneurship conference. Thousands filled the hall. As I walked to the podium, I caught sight of my parents in the front row, holding a banner that read, "Proud of our daughter." I took a deep breath and began. When I started, people laughed. When I failed, they ignored me. When I succeeded, they called it luck. But the truth is, light doesn't ask for permission to shine. The crowd roared. Then I surprised everyone by inviting Lily on stage. I said, "She used to doubt me, but now she helps hundreds of others believe in themselves." Lily hugged me tightly, crying. The cameras flashed. For the first time, I felt peace, not from winning, but from healing what once was broken. This was the real ending I'd been waiting for. A year later, I visited my old apartment, the one where I had first poured wax by hand and cried over unpaid bills. It was empty now, but the faint smell of vanilla still lingered. I placed one candle on the windowsill and lit it. The flame flickered gently, its glow reflecting on the glass. I whispered, "We made it." Outside, the city buzzed with life. My story had become a symbol for thousands, but to me it was still simple. One small dream that refused to die. As I turned to leave, my phone buzzed, an email from a young woman. "My family says I'm wasting time on my bakery idea, but I saw your story. I'm not giving up." I smiled and typed back, "Good. Let them laugh. You'll feed them cake someday." Walking away, I felt lighter. My past didn't haunt me anymore. It guided me. And wherever that candle's light touched next, I knew it would carry a piece of me.